There are moments when the evidence before you feels more convincing than anything you have imagined. It is not merely that your desire has not appeared. The condition before you may now require a decision, an action, or an answer you cannot postpone. You are being asked to respond to circumstances that are real, immediate, and sometimes painful. At such a moment, remaining faithful to an unseen end may begin to feel less like faith and more like pretending. So what are you meant to do? Ignore what is happening. Suppress every natural reaction. Act as though the problem does not exist. No, that is not the discipline of assumption. You can meet the present condition honestly, take whatever action it requires, and still refuse to let it decide the final meaning of your life. Walk with me now, and I will show you how to separate the fact before you from the verdict you have unknowingly attached to it. To live by assumption does not mean that you deny what is happening. If a payment is due, you may need to make a call or arrange what can be arranged. If your body requires attention, you may need to seek proper care. If another person has withdrawn, you must respect what is actually taking place. Denial is not faith. It is the refusal to respond honestly to what is present. Faith is the ability to look directly at the present condition without allowing it to define the final outcome. You must learn to separate two things. The first is the fact before you. The second is the meaning you attach to it. The fact may be, this is difficult today. The verdict is, this will never change. The fact may be, I have not yet received the answer. The verdict is, I am forgotten. Your task is not to erase the fact. Your task is to refuse the verdict. Once you see the difference between the fact and the verdict, the next question is practical. What do you do when the present condition begins pulling you toward the conclusion you have refused? Use this 4-step return. First, name what is happening without enlarging it. Say inwardly, this is what I am facing now. Do not add, everything is ruined or nothing ever works for me. State the condition plainly. A fact can be handled. A frightened conclusion only adds another burden. Next, do what the moment actually requires. Make the call, read the letter, attend the appointment, answer the message, rearrange what can be rearranged, ask for help when help is needed. Practical action does not mean that you have abandoned your assumption. It means that you are meeting the present with clarity rather than panic. The action belongs to what must be handled now. It does not have to determine the end you accept inwardly. Then refuse to let the condition become a verdict. You may say, this is present evidence, but it is not the final outcome. Do not argue with what is happening, and do not force yourself to feel joyful. Simply stop treating the present condition as proof of what must happen next. Finally, return inwardly to the resolution. Ask yourself, if this were already resolved, what would now be true of me? Let the answer point you toward the state. Then choose the form that feels most natural. You may recall one brief scene that implies the matter is finished. Hear a few words you would hear after it was resolved, or rest for a moment in the simple relief of no longer carrying the problem. The method is not the point. Its purpose is to place you once more on the other side of the difficulty, then allow you to continue with your day. You are not expected to hold a perfect feeling from morning until night. You may feel fear, disappointment, or anxiety. You may need time to become still again, but none of this prevents you from returning. Name the fact. Take the necessary action. Refuse the verdict. Return inwardly to the resolution. The form of the problem may change, but the return remains the same. Let us see how it works in the areas where people are most easily shaken. If the pressure is financial, begin with the number before you. Look at what is due. Decide what must be handled first. Make the necessary call and ask for help if help is needed. Denial avoids the number. Panic studies it again and again until it becomes a prophecy. A steadier response deals with what is present without allowing today's balance to define tomorrow. The inner conclusion may be simple. This is being handled. My life is not confined to this moment. If the concern is physical, give the body the attention it requires. Seek qualified care. Follow reasonable guidance and avoid turning uncertainty into the worst possible conclusion. Denial refuses attention. Panic watches every sensation and gives each one a frightening meaning. The wiser response is to care for the body while refusing to make a present condition your permanent identity. Return inwardly to health, restoration, and steadiness. And if the pain concerns another person, respect what is actually happening. Do not force contact, violate a boundary, or use assumption as permission to control someone else. At the same time, do not let silence, distance, or rejection become proof that you are unworthy of love. Handle the relationship with dignity, then return to the inner knowledge that your worth has not been decided by this moment. Remember, money may threaten your sense of security. Illness may threaten your sense of safety. Rejection may threaten your sense of worth. But whatever form the present condition takes, the practice remains the same. Face what is present. Respond where a response is needed. Then refuse to let one condition become the final definition of your life. As you practice this return, you stop allowing every circumstance to decide who you are. Many of you believe that one fearful reaction destroys the imaginal work. It does not. A reaction is a movement of feeling. A state is the position to which you repeatedly return. The mistake is not that you became afraid. The mistake would be to let fear become the final truth. Do not measure yourself every hour. Do not ask whether you remained faithful enough. That is only another form of checking. When you notice that the present condition is beginning to decide the ending for you, return to the resolution you have chosen. That is the practice. You do not need to say that pain is pleasant. You do not need to call loss gain. You do not need to pretend that the outer world has already changed. You need only refuse to make what is visible the final authority over what is possible. Face the fact. Take the action. Refuse the verdict. Return inwardly to the resolution. Now, let us go into the silence.